truly, thank you. Teachers are doing the most important work. So today we're here to celebrate the 10th anniversary of CSEdWeek, which was founded in 2009. It's a pretty incredible milestone, and I couldn't believe that I'd be standing up here when the first CSEdWeek was happening. CSEdWeek was founded by a really incredible group of organizations and partners that knew CS education was important and wanted to make sure more students could learn computer science. And I want to give a special shout out to two folks that really helped lead the way. Chris Stevenson, who was the founding executive director of the Computer Science Teachers Association, and Cameron Wilson, who was then with ACM. And they focused on making sure that they could raise awareness among policymakers for CS education, even getting Congress to pass a resolution recognizing the first week. And then someone figured out that policy is great and all, but it's teachers who actually make things happen. So in 2010, chaired by Deborah Richardson, the focus of CSEdWeek shifted and focused on bringing computer science into more classrooms and to support more students. And this continued into 2011 with 2011 and 2012 with Ruth Farmer taking over to chair the event. In fact, I still have the first email I got from my local CSTA chapter announcing that CSEdWeek was happening in 2010. We celebrated in my classroom in Chicago, and I tried to get the city of Chicago to recognize the week. I wasn't very successful, but they've caught on since then. Then, in 2013, some guy made this video, and responsibility for organizing CSEdWeek was transitioned to Code.org along with the launch of the Hour of Code. Has anyone in this room done an Hour of Code? At least a few people. Hopefully everyone by the end of today. Which brings us here to today, where I'm excited to share that starting with today's co-hosted event, CSTA is going to be taking increasing ownership in CSEdWeek moving forward, ensuring that it continues to be a community-centered and focused event that supports teachers across the country and around the world. But that's not all. I'm also thrilled that today CSTA gets to release our new standards for CS teachers. These are standards that are designed to provide guidance around what effective, equitable, and rigorous CS instruction should look like. Excuse me. And provide clarity around what CS teachers should know and be able to do in the computer science classroom. I encourage you to check out these standards at csteachers.org/teacherstandards. And I want to give a huge thank you to the incredible team of writers that spent this last year developing and debating to make these incredible guidance for teachers moving forward, along with ISTE, who partnered with us on this work. So I just want to say one last time, thanks to everyone tuning in and everyone here in this room. Let's have one incredible CSEdWeek.
Thank you so much, Jake. So as I mentioned earlier, I took Jake's job at Code.org. I want to introduce the person next on the stage who knows, maybe I'll be taking his job next. Our founder and CEO of Code.org. Please give a round of applause to Hadi Partovi. Thank you.
I'm so excited to be here, and I want to say again thank you to the SFIS for hosting us here and for all the partners who are here together with us. This has been such an amazing run for me since 2013 in the launch of Code.org and the launch of the very first Hour of Code campaign. I want to start by thanking all the donors who have funded computer science education over the years, especially Microsoft, Amazon, Facebook, and Infosys, as well as thank you to the CS Education Week Advisory Committee that every year helps us put on a wonderful event. So we launched the Hour of Code 6 years ago. Back then, Code.org was just about 5 people. It was a tiny little organization, and we had this idea that in every school in the entire country or even in the world, teachers can take just 1 hour out of their schedule to teach computer science to students, to basically to take the veil of sort of secrecy and darkness away from this new field that is changing the world around us. In the 6 years since the Hour of Code launched, we've had 835 million hours of code done by students in every city and in every country on the planet. It's been an incredible success. The Hour of Code has become by far the largest movement in the history of world education, but 1 hour is not enough. We don't do just 1 hour of math or just 1 hour of English. We teach these subjects year-round and throughout a student's education lifetime. And so the Hour of Code really started a movement to teach computer science in schools. And since 2013, another thing that's happened is in the United States, we've had all 50 states, including DC, have changed policies in the last 6 years to take steps to make computer science part of the core curriculum, part of the academic school day, to make it an actual academic field recognized in the school system alongside subjects like math and English and science and history. Every single state, including here in New Mexico, has taken steps to make computer science part of the academic school day. So this has been an incredible success. Thank you all. And computer science is not just a United States topic. This is a global movement. Globally, over 50 countries have taken steps to incorporate computer science in schools. These are countries you might expect, like South Korea and Japan, or countries you might not expect, like Saudi Arabia or Argentina. On every continent, countries are basically taking steps to make computer science accessible to every student, to increase diversity in the field, to make sure everybody has access to opportunity. And speaking of diversity, one stat I'm especially proud of, for the first time last year for the Hour of Code, an equal number of boys and girls participated in the Hour of Code. This is Historically, computer science has been a field that has been dominated by men. It's been roughly 80% men, 20% women. But with the students that are doing the Hour of Code and also learning computer science as a follow-on course in schools, we can completely flip that and get to a 50-50 gender balance. And last year we did it with the Hour of Code, and each year we're going to continue doing this. Now, 1 hour of code is a great start, but it's really just the first step towards a complete computer science pathway. And computer science is today still not offered as a real course in the vast majority of schools. But that's changing globally because teachers have led the way. Teachers, as Jake said, are doing the most important job in the world, and I want to have everybody again join in giving them a round of applause for the work they're doing in classrooms. So our theme for this year's Hour of Code and Computer Science Education Week is about computer science for good. Computer science can be used in so many ways to make the world a better place. We can use computer science and software and technology to detect diseases sooner and even one day cure them. Our future cars and trucks will be safer and more energy efficient. We can develop cleaner and more sustainable energy sources. We can offer our children more equitable and universally accessible education. And there's really no limit to what we could do with computer science but our imaginations. You can also make really cool Snapchat filters. Computer science is this generation's superpower, and with great power comes great responsibility, and therefore it's our responsibility as educators to not only teach this superpower in our schools, but also to inspire students to use computer science for good, which is why we chose the theme of CS for Good for the Hour of Code. And I expect this theme will stick around well beyond this year. We have a short video to play to introduce the theme for this year.
The world has some big problems. But I'm little, what can I do?
Even when problems seem big, we can tackle them one step at a time.
Our generation can help make a more prosperous, equitable, and sustainable world.
I'm learning to code.
I'm designing apps that solve local problems.
I'm programming robots.
I'm learning computer science to make change happen.
Because with technology,
We can build robots to clean the world's oceans.
We can program drones to detect forest fires quickly.
We can empower young women with digital skills and tools.
We can program mobile apps to streamline farming in poor rural areas.
We can use gene sequencing to diagnose diseases.
And create personalized medicine to cure them.
I'm little, but don't look at my size.
Look at my potential.
I can make change happen.
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 Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Hadi. What a great video. Every year for Hour of Code, it seems like we outdo ourselves, and this year is no exception. There are a lot of misconceptions out there about what computer science is, that it's a niche just for the technology field, that it just belongs in Silicon Valley, but that's just not true. And our panel that I'm introducing today, I am so proud, embodies so much of what the CS for Good theme is all about. Whether it's the work that they're doing in their career and professions, inventions that they're making every day, the apps that they're using, or their creativity, I'm honored to welcome to the stage some amazing people who will be joining us up here. So please join me in giving each of these folks a round of applause. First, I'd like to welcome to the stage Shayna White, CSTA teacher and CSTA Equity Fellow from Gwinnett County, Georgia. Next, I'd like to welcome to the stage Emma Yang, student and creator of the Timeless app, a first-of-its-kind mobile app that uses artificial intelligence to help those diagnosed with Alzheimer's and dementia remember events, stay connected, and engaged with friends, family, and recognized loved ones from New York City. Thank you, Emma. Next, I'd like to welcome to the stage Jordan Sky Paul, Strategic Operations Manager at Pinterest and strong advocate for Native Americans in the tech industry. She lives in the Bay Area, and she's also enrolled in the Colorado Indian River Tribes. Next, thank you. Thank you for joining us, Jordan. Next, I'd like to introduce Tara Chizlowski, founder and CEO of Technovation, a global tech education nonprofit that empowers girls and families to become leaders, creators, and problem solvers, who also lives in the Bay Area. Thanks for joining us. And finally, somebody who might have the coolest nickname, Mr. Drew Dr. Woohoo Trujillo, who is the Director of Technology of Meow Wolf, a local arts collective here in Santa Fe and local to Santa Fe. Thank you so much for being here, Drew.
So I'd like for all of our panelists first to just kind of introduce themselves and maybe share something you're passionate about so we can connect with the audience.
Hi, my name is Emma Yang. I'm a junior from high school in New York City, and I'm also the founder of Timeless. Timeless is an app that I created that uses artificial intelligence-based facial recognition technology to help to empower Alzheimer's patients to stay connected with their friends and family. I was inspired to create this app from my experience with my grandmother, and I'm really passionate about using my passion for coding to help and benefit as many people around the world as possible.
Good morning, my name is Jordan. I'm Lakota and Nez Perce on my mom's side and Hopi and Mojave on my dad's side. I live in San Francisco, I work at Pinterest, previously worked at Facebook, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. What I'm really passionate about though is that representation matters, that it's important that our Native communities are represented within the tech sector and that we continue to try to draw a connection between our communities and our homelands and everything that's happening in the tech world. So I hope to continue to talk about that a little bit more today.
Good morning, everyone. I'm really thrilled to be here. My name is Tara, and I run a technology entrepreneurship program called Technovation, which is to empower young people to find problems that they find in their communities and to actually create technology to solve those problems. Some things that I'm passionate about, I like to build rockets, and I like to paint, and so sometimes I paint rockets and then I shoot them.
Good morning, I'm Drew. I work at Meow Wolf. I'm very passionate about not only creating things with my hands, but also creating tools via programming that enable me to create something that I wouldn't be able to otherwise because those tools don't exist. There's a lot of opportunities for that. I'm also very passionate about outreach and helping students understand how they can stay and live within this beautiful state that we live in and pursue careers within computer science for the good of everybody.
Thank you. So I'd like to start our first question. It's going to be for Emma and Jordan. What got you into computer science? What was kind of the hook to get you into computer science?
Yeah, so I was introduced to computer science when I was 6 years old. I started kind of coding with Scratch, which is a tool, kind of a block-by-block programming tool to help kids learn how to code. And so I started with that, and I progressed kind of to making little websites and games. But then actually it was not until when I was 10 years old I participated in Technovation with a classmate of mine, and I created an app that uses a mobile app to help to detect concussions easier. And so that was kind of my bridge into realizing that, my passion for coding, which is something I thought was really fun and kind of a hobby that I like to do, was actually something that could empower me. As a middle school student, I could affect change in the world, and I could really benefit people that even I had never met, but I could still, create something to help them.
I originally started in actually nonprofit. When I graduated from Arizona State, I moved back to the Bay Area, and the first thing that I did was go to my relatives and say, who can help me get a job? And the first opportunities that came up were in nonprofit. So I worked for the Native American Health Center in Oakland for quite a while, until my mom actually, who is from Standing Rock, said, and was working at Facebook at the time, said, there's a lot of opportunities in the tech world that you should explore, and you should come over and you should look at some of these roles and you should interview for them and see what happens. And so really the bridge for me was her, just as an introduction, that she even said, this is possible. You should look into this. You should think about this. And so I did. I interviewed. Took a long time. It's hard. It's competitive, and it's challenging. But I made a move from nonprofit into tech. I worked at Facebook for a little while, and now I'm at Pinterest. So my journey is a little bit unconventional, but it started from working from the community, and now it leads me into tech.
Awesome. I love unconventional journeys, especially as a teacher. Hearing from middle schoolers, kids that I'm empowering in my classes today could be the next inventor of these apps that could do so much good for people in the world. So Tara, my next question for you is, what are some of the problems that computer science can help us solve?
Yeah, so Technovation has been running for 14 years in 100 countries, and we see incredible technology solutions that don't normally come out of Silicon Valley or typical the tech companies, because the inventors are people like you. They are young people, and young people have a very unique perspective. So some of my favorite apps, and there are so many, was a team from Bolivia. This was a very remote team that lived in the mountains, and they learned about the Technovation competition from an amazing teacher. And they were very confused, because they're like, why would we want to create an app and put it on the market and charge for it? And the mentor was a little surprised, and then they realized, like, this town or this area was so remote that they don't use money. They actually barter. But they all had smartphones. And so the girls thought a lot about what could be some problems that technology could help them with. And they realized that they spent most of their time walking, because this place was very remote. And so they created an app where you could scan a QR code. How many of you know what a QR code is? So that white and black image. So they printed it on paper, and then they put these printouts on rocks all over the village for like 10 miles. And so you could scan this QR code, and while you were walking, you could learn how to code, you could learn math, because they felt that that was very important, and they could learn the language that was their native language that was dying out. And that app was so powerful, because I felt that a typical engineer from Silicon Valley would create an app like that. And it is a representation of a voice that is small, but a voice that is very powerful. And that's what technology can do. It can amplify one person's voice.
Awesome. Drew, would you like to share even also not only problems that the can solve, but how does CS look here in Santa Fe?
Sure. In relation to the problems that CS can solve, one of the most fascinating questions that I remember when I worked at Autodesk was this question about how can design and programming for us basically help improve the world where there's 7.5 billion people. And so in every project that we work on, we always think about that question. And so in relation to computer science and 3D printing, there's so much room for improvement within 3D printing and additive manufacturing. so that the themes that we actually create are more sustainable for the environment and with a real focus on climate change. And so within Sante Fe itself, at least through Meow Wolf, we participate in a lot of different STEAM and STEM, different types of workshops locally. In terms of the schools, I think there's a lot of opportunities during the summertime for you to look at like the community college in terms of taking courses for computer science. And so, yeah, it's
Awesome.
good stuff.
So my next question is going to be for Jordan to piggyback off of your Facebook comment. We always hear with great power comes great responsibility. And we know with computer science, it unlocks so many powerful things that we can do for the world and to change the world. But there's an ethics piece to that. And so I'm curious what you think creators should be aware of when they're building this new technology and they're creating this new technology for people to use.
So does everybody remember when the Standing Rock protest was happening a few years ago? So at Facebook, they have a policy that requires you to use your real name so that people don't go on and use pseudonyms like you could on MySpace or like other platforms, you know, where you can have a username. But when Standing Rock was happening, there were a lot of people posting videos and live streaming, right, that they were protesting, they were there, they were occupying. And unfortunately, because the politics were so strong, you know, around what's happening there in the Keystone Pipeline, there were a lot of other people on Facebook who were trying to block those people from being able to live stream. So they were reporting them for having an inauthentic name. And so on the Facebook side, what was happening was these accounts were being flagged as being inauthentic, and the team who was responsible for going through every single name and making sure that it was real didn't actually realize that there are a lot of native names out there in the world that sound very different than what we traditionally hear in Western society, right? So, elk eagle and bearwalks and, all our relatives that have names that are different, or if you're from the Southwest and you have, different sounding names that people are not used to hearing, they weren't able to actually decide or identify whether or not those names were real because they didn't have that experience with Native people. So it was flagged internally. Some of us that worked there, my mom included, got involved with the team that was responsible for managing that, and we worked with them to bring in somebody from the community who could help educate them on some cultural competency to say, here's some examples of the kinds of Native names that you may come across. Here also is a suggestion to add a tribal ID as a form of identification that people can use to validate themselves if their account gets reported. So now on Facebook, you can use your tribal ID to validate yourself. The point being that what we did was we educated people internally. We helped solve this problem a lot faster. And the only way we would have been able to do that is if we had representation inside of Facebook. We were able to actually solve that problem. So continuing my message that it's important that we're well represented, and remember that wherever you work, you come from the community that you come from, and you can help solve problems that other people might not otherwise be able to.
That's awesome. Tara, I'd love for you and Drew to also kind of ask the ethics piece, especially because you guys are dealing with tech innovations, with your Wolf, like how you're kind of getting the ethics taken care of as far as people understanding wanting to build these things, but understanding that power, that they need to be responsible with it.
Yeah, I think in our curriculum, in the program, we start with find a problem that you face, and right away that prompt makes it a personal problem. And sometimes people don't mean harm, right? Like you create a prototype, you create a solution, and then because it's for the world, you launch it into the world. And it's an interesting exercise to see, well, what were the unintended consequences of what you just did? So for instance, and we as organizers and an education nonprofit are also learning what types of tools should we provide to students. So you're thinking about it not after the damage is done, but a little bit before. And sometimes these things can be very, very hard because technology innovation means that it did not exist before, so it's hard to kind of predict what's going to happen. So one example was one team earlier this year created an image recognition system to help children with autism and it was autism and Down syndrome. And right away, it would look at people's faces and try to distinguish whether a person needed help or a child needed help or not. And from the team's perspective, it was meant to help. But right away, if you were to hear about it, you're like, that doesn't sound right. And so there are many instances like that when you're trying to create. So technology can be very powerful because immediately when you put it online, thousands of people can use it, a lot of data can be generated. You have to think through a little bit about what are the good and bad things that could happen that you did not intend. And so the best way to do that is to actually bring together a group of people from who are not like you, and to get their perspective even before you launch it, because you will learn so much from that. And it's simple. It's really just you have some humility and you're just wanting to hear from people. So it's an interesting and a fun way, and it'll make your product so much better.
One of the fascinating things about technology just in general is this attraction to innovate just for the sake of technology and just for the sake of innovation. And that could be a trap if you're not thinking about, just to reiterate what Tara was talking about, what kind of solutions are you trying to solve? What's the good? What is the bad in relation to that? And so, for example, when I was at Autodesk, we were doing a lot of research in relation to robotics. And so I would hack into robots and try to find the sweet spot between what a person brings to the table and what a robot does. The challenge within that scenario was, does a robot replace a human and a job, basically? So that was an interesting thing to consider. The other, in relation to Meow Wolf and what I do on a very regular basis, technology we use it for lighting, we use it for sound, engineering, tech fabrication. We use it basically to enhance the story and enhance the emotions. And so the most important question there really is, what is the story that we're trying to tell? What are we really trying to have people think about and question in relation to their day-to-day lives? And so it's not technology for the sake of technology, but it's really there as a means to help you, explore the world and try to find better answers than what we presented in the past.
I think that's a big thing to think about, is the good and bad. And I even want to kind of ask Emma, with you developing your own app, dealing with facial recognition, and we understand the ethics behind facial recognition. Sometimes there's some boundaries that can be crossed. What did you consider when you were developing your app as far as the ethics piece?
Yeah, so there's definitely a lot of data privacy concerns that that I, as a developer, and also the UI UX designer that I work with, we do consider a lot in terms of how do we store people's data, what kind of data do we collect. Actually, in the latest release that we just had, we actually released a kind of a more global release this weekend. We did a soft launch in May, and so we're kind of expanding out. We did take a look at when we have users register. Do you want to take the patient's address? Because originally we think, well, with my own grandmother, we write down her address for her in case that she doesn't remember and she can't find her way back home. And so we wanted to take into consideration and ask people out there who would potentially use the app, would you like us to take your address? Is that something that you'd be comfortable sharing with us? And so thinking about those kinds of considerations and taking into account other people's privacy concerns and their level of, their level of comfort with sharing their data, especially because I'm working with an older generation that isn't as used to technology, has been something that's been kind of interspersed throughout my journey creating Timeless.
So my next question, to kind of summate as far as CS for Good, is what are you doing right now that is CS for Good? Before we kind of give a charge to the audience and the students, because we want them to engage in CS for Good, what are you doing right now currently with CS for Good?
I think my focus really is on empowering the populations that, traditional tech industry might not have looked at. I think, a lot of the time when we think of, the older generation, especially Alzheimer's patients, we think, they can't use technology, it's not really their world. But I think that the meaning of technology and innovation is really accessibility and empowerment, and bringing, these benefits to not only the people who we see using them on a day-to-day basis, but also those who could benefit from them but aren't getting those benefits right now. And so that's why I've really been pushing for not only creating Timeless and developing Timeless, but also in general pushing for people to take into consideration those around them who maybe aren't being touched by technology and really could benefit from it, especially because right now people aren't designing for the older population. And so what I really think about a lot is how do we design this so it's really easy to use and it's understandable to a different kind of population. And so I think that's something that is really meaningful to me because, my grandmother herself, we are using technology with her, but that's not something that's very visible outside in our culture. And so pushing for that has been really important to me.
Yeah, I mentioned that, my mission in life is just to represent us as Native people in tech and try to create some connections between our communities and what's happening in the tech world. I think two things are really top of mind for me right now. One is I love participating in events like this, just to come out and speak to other folks and say, hey, there's other Native people in Silicon Valley or in other parts of the tech world. So if you're interested, there's a community of us out in other parts of the country. And so I love doing this kind of work and just talking about what we're doing. The other is that, I work at Pinterest. So right now, my mission is to help us as Indigenous people who work at Pinterest. We have a small community. Look at the platform itself and say, how can we make this better? How can we make our content that people might want to try to find on Pinterest relevant and current so that it's not stereotyping us, so that it doesn't look as something that is old or dated? And so right now we're focused on trying to look at all of the pins and the content that's on Pinterest and look at what people might actually be searching for and say, how do we make this up to date? How do we represent us as who we are today? So that's what I'm focused on right now.
So I have a question for you. How many of you have a smartphone? How many of you think you can make an app for that phone? So if you go to technovation.org, there's a full curriculum where you can just go step by step by step, and you need to know nothing about coding. But at the end of 3 months, you'll actually have created an app that you can use, your friends can use, your family can use, the world can use. And you can think about what are some things that have been frustrating you, and think a little bit about how can technology help ease that frustration. And then you actually have an idea. And that idea is completely you, it's unique, it's your voice, and you should bring that voice to the world.
Right now, having grown up and lived in New Mexico for a large chunk of my life, one of the things that's most important to me is being able to provide opportunity for students like yourselves and build that bridge from not only kindergarten all the way through 12th grade, but into different vocational technical schools, universities, and then into companies like Meow Wolf. And so not only myself, but a large number of my coworkers participate on a very regular basis in terms of different STEAM types of events. We follow Jennifer Navarez on a very regular basis to help out in communities like Zuni in terms of workshops for how to program with Arduino and Raspberry Pi, et cetera. And so for me, the good part of that is really trying to help educate students like yourself so that you have the opportunity, like I mentioned before, to be able to stay here within New Mexico if you want to, and not have to move away from this beautiful state.
All right, our last question is kind of a charge for our audience here and also our live stream audience is, how would you encourage students to use CS for good?
I think, in order to encourage students to use CS for good from the teacher side, and also people working in the industry, to really embrace the change that students want to see, and for students themselves to really push for that change. Because I think that, myself, when I was a middle school student, I was, 12 or 13 years old, I just started emailing, these CTOs who, worked for these facial recognition companies and asking, would you like to be my mentor for this project I'd like to do? And I think that the most meaningful mentors were the ones that I found who really believed in my vision and really also were passionate about it and also treated me as an equal and saw that the change that I wanted to create was something that was viable, and that's something that if we all kind of put in the resources and he could, guide me through the process, was something that was tangible and really meaningful and beneficial. And so I think that for, the adults also to kind of really embrace this change and also, take kids seriously and listen to what they want to see happen in the world and to help to make that happen.
I would say, think about a problem that you care a lot about. If it's, the environment, if it's politics, if it's social media or connections or your community or people or healthcare, whatever it is that's important to you, it's unique to you, think about how you can connect the technology world with that, because there are so many problems yet to be solved, and all of us have the ability to help solve them, but what will really drive and fuel that is how much you care about it. And so the more that you actually genuinely feel like you want to be a part of that change, and maybe one day look back and say, the legacy that I left behind is that I worked on this, I was a part of that project, or I met all of these incredible people who also worked on amazing projects that I helped support, or that I knew, or that I was championing from the sideline. So think about what you care about, and also support those around you who are also doing really great things.
So I would say that believe that age is no barrier. If you're 8 years old, 9 years old, 10 years old, if technology, like Hadi said, is a superpower. So it enables you to make a change in the world that you live in. So don't wait until you're a grown-up or an adult or you have a job, or there's absolutely nothing stopping you. You can go online, you can teach yourself how to build things, but the power lies in you, and you have to sort of wake up and say, I don't need to complain, I can actually fix this problem. And begin to take steps towards that. Bring your friends, bring 2 or 3 friends, work in a team, and it'll be the most powerful experience of your life. So don't wait.
I love all that. That's all super important. And when I was your age, computer programming basically meant we had these punch cards. And I don't know if you've ever seen these punch cards, but I would do something like 2 + 2. I would program that on the punch card. I would mail that out. You would wait 2 weeks to be able to find out that it was 4. And there was one computer mysteriously somewhere, and it was the size of a room. Right now, you are so lucky in that you have access to be able to go to websites like Code.org, or you have tools like Little Bits, or you can program within Scratch. And if you don't have the Little Bits, go to your librarian, ask for it. If you don't have access to Scratch or any computer science programs within your schools, go to your teachers and ask for it, because your demand and the demand for that, they'll listen to that hopefully, and we'll be able to make that much more accessible to you. But in general, you have so many different tools that are available for you to at least build that foundation to begin with, and then the next steps after that are what kind of good can you use that new skill set for.
I'd like to thank our panelists for sharing your brilliance and your wisdom with our live studio audience. Can we get a loud round of applause for our panelists?
I feel like quite the underachiever after that panel. One more round of applause for our panelists. Thank you so much. Now now we're going to transition to our next segment, our CS award panel. So I'd like to invite Hadi and Jake back up to the stage, please. And Shayna, thank you. Would you please stay on stage as well? And next, Paige Prescott, who is our amazing computer science champion, advocate, teacher extraordinaire in the state of New Mexico. Thank you so much. Thank you. And probably one of the neatest parts of today, I'd like to invite up our student high five tunnel to come up and get set up for our awards today. So as they're doing that, the purpose of the Champions for CS Award is to celebrate students, teachers, administrators, and organizations who have made significant impact to improve access to and the equity of computer science education. This year, we received more than 200 nominations from all over the United States. We're inspired by the work of these winners. We're celebrating not just them, but the work of thousands upon thousands of computer science champions just like them all over the world. Before we hand out the awards, I'd also like to take a moment and thank the committee, the awards committee, and especially Dan Blyer, a CSTA school district representative from Plano, Texas, Independent School District, and Vicki Sedgwick, a CSTA K-8 representative from Los Angeles, for all the hard work they put in to selecting these award winners and making today possible. So give them a round of applause, please. All right, students, is our high five tunnel ready? I don't believe you. Are we sure? All right, well, before I turn it over to Shayna, I'm going to test that high five tunnel out. So, Shayna, thank you so much. Let's try it out. Thanks. All right.
This year's Champion CS Organization Award is presented to the Mission Economic Development Corporation. Accepting this award is Mission Director of Social Impact, Christina Garza. Christina has worked to prioritize computer science and STEM education for the entire city of Mission, Texas. She's arranged a partnership for Mouse to train 100 teachers and 20 counselors in CS, and she's prioritized opportunities for young women and non-binary students by creating the Crew Internship Program, which includes summer coding camps and ongoing mentorship in business and professional skills. Congratulations to Mission EDC and Christina. Paul Foster is our Champion of CS Administrator winner. Paul is the Chief Information and Accountability Officer at Springfield Public Schools in Massachusetts. Most of the students in Paul's district have not traditionally had access to computer science education, so to bridge the gap, Paul partnered with the University of Massachusetts Amherst to create computer science curriculum for all 33 of the district's elementary schools. Paul couldn't be with us here today, but he's watching online. Congratulations, Paul. LaJanae Walker is this year's Champion of CS Teacher Award winner. LaJanae teaches computer science at the City College Academy of the Arts. In over just 2 years, LaJanae has a full computer science department at the City College Academy of Arts, the only department in the school that offers 2 AP courses. Her students went from receiving no computer science instruction to having coursework in coding languages, access to a robotics team, and a Girls Who Code chapter. More than 100 students have enrolled in her computer science classes, and half of them are enrolled in an AP course. The majority of LaJanae's AP students passed their AP CS Principles exam, and a third have since moved on to AP CSA. Congratulations.
And next is Rachel Robinson. She is accepting the AP Diversity Award on behalf of her school, Ardrey Kell High School in Charlotte, North Carolina. Rachel's school had the highest number of female students who took the AP Computer Science Principles test out of schools using the Code.org curriculum in 2017-2018. Out of 344 test takers, 117 of them were young women. This is an amazing achievement, and we're excited to honor the incredible work of Rachel and her school's computer science program. And next is Axel Toro. He is our Champions of CS student winner. Axel is a senior at Dr. Carlos Gonzalez High School in Aguada, Puerto Rico. And he's our winner because he created a pair of smart glasses to help people with visual impairments navigate the world. The glasses use sound waves to measure the distance between the wearer and potential obstacles. And they also use artificial intelligence and a camera to identify objects for the wearer. The entire device runs on a Raspberry Pi Zero, which is half the size of a credit card. Congratulations, Axel.
Congratulations again to all of our award winners. Can we give them one more round of applause, please? Thank you. So before we wrap up today's events, I would like to welcome to the stage one more very special guest. Howie Morales was elected Lieutenant Governor of New Mexico in November 2018, along with Governor Michelle Lujan Grisham. Prior to becoming the state's 30th Lieutenant Governor, he served in the New Mexico Senate for 11 years on the Legislative Finance Committee. The first in his family to attend college, Howie put himself through Western New Mexico University in Silver City, where he earned degrees in education. He also earned a PhD in education curriculum and instruction from New Mexico State University. As a classroom teacher for over a decade and a successful coach of high school basketball and baseball teams, Howie is an outspoken advocate for students, educators, and classrooms. Please join us in giving a warm round of applause to New Mexico's own Lieutenant Governor Howie Morales.
Wow, good morning. What a wonderful energy. What a wonderful crowd. I'm so excited to be part of this with you because this is the reason why I chose to get into public service. How you can connect the public sector and the public service aspect of it with education. So I'm so proud to be here with every one of you. I want to congratulate all of our awardees. Thank you for coming to New Mexico. You know, I'm very proud of this state. I was born, raised, and educated right here in New Mexico. And I always say, no matter where I travel across the country, that New Mexico is a land of enchantment, the land of hot air balloons, the land of hotter green chili, but the coolest people that you're ever going to meet. And I hope you've seen that, those that have visited us. Before I begin, I just want to just acknowledge some individuals who are in the audience with us today. You know, education has been at the heart of what I do, and today brings so many memories of my journey to get to the point where I am. But I always want to make sure that we continue to advocate for our educators across the state of New Mexico and across the country and across the world. And when I talk about educators, I'm not talking just about teachers. I'm talking about educators, teachers, educational assistants, bus drivers, those that work in the cafeteria, custodians, counselors, and the list can go on because if you have an impact on that child's life, you're an educator. And I ask today that all educators here in the auditorium, please stand and be recognized. Thank you so much. And I have to say, when I drove up, I was at the Roundhouse this morning doing some work, preparing for the week. And I drove up, and the first bus that I saw was a bus of Cobre High School. There's all my Cobra Indians right there. I had the opportunity to work there for many years and to teach and to coach in that district. And so it made me very proud and kind of brought those memories. Matter of fact, our superintendent of the schools that we're in right here, Mr. Roy Hideta. Mr. Roy Hideta, are you still here? I saw him a little while. There you are. Thank you so much for all your efforts for education across the state. On behalf of the Governor, Michelle Lujan Grisham, and myself, we're so grateful that you are here with us today, that you've made Computer Science Education Week a possibility and having New Mexico be part of that. And so we're grateful. I'd like to personally thank all the folks at the Computer Science Teachers Association, Code.org, where I got my cool pin today. Thank you so much, Hadi, for that. I want to thank the Computer Science Alliance, the Sante Fe Indian School, Hadi, Jake, Alexis, and Paige, thank you so much. And I want to give a special thank you as well to a person who I'm so proud that agreed to join our team at the Public Education Department, Dr. Gwen Wardeman. Thank you so much. Just wanted to say thank you for that. So much has taken place when you talk about the movement for computer science, and having that opportunity brought back those memories like I shared a while ago. I can remember back in 1989, 1990, being in that high school classroom where my computer science teacher, Mrs. Peggy Ladish, back then we were on the Apple IIe's where we still had the floppy disks, and we learned a little bit about using the computer and a little bit about coding, a little bit about what that meant for communication. And fast forwarding, and I shared the story of Cobre High School. I can remember when I would go to the library or go somewhere, usually in a school setting, to utilize a computer and to get to know that a little bit more. I can remember when growing up, we didn't have much money, and my father was a miner, my mother was a teacher assistant, but I remember the day that my father bought me a computer. He saved up money and tried to assist me along my journey as I began my doctorate work. And I sat there with that computer, and I went over and over and over. And actually, a logo that I created for the baseball program took many hours learning, exploring the potential of communicating with that computer. And so when I look and see the impact that that's had on my life, it's personal to me. And I share that with you because my father passed away less than 2 months ago. But the gift that he was able to give me and to share has been so impactful that I went on to get my PhD, not only in curriculum instruction, but in the powers and uses of learning technology and assisting special education students. Many of you have the same story, and give a round of applause for those stories that have brought you where you're at today. So as you know, in New Mexico, there's a lot of momentum, and we're excited about the pathway that we're taking in education, because we understand that everything begins and ends with education. And fortunately, under the Governor Michelle Lujan Grisham administration, under the direction of Public Education Department, what we've seen is that New Mexico has established a computer science education task force made up of more than 40 individuals, bringing people from all sectors together to ensure that we are going to provide recommendations to include a statewide strategic plan. This is significant because we recognize the importance of computer science within our daily curriculum. And I can tell you that many times there's a lot of myths that we hear in our society. We laugh about those myths. We don't think twice about them. You remember some of those myths. You better not cross your eyes. Why not? They'll stay that way. You better not eat that watermelon seed. How come? It'll stay in your stomach. And then some of you, when you didn't get home when you should have, you know that lady that walks the river right there, La Llorona, she was going to come and get you. We laugh about it. We don't even think twice about some of those myths. But there are some myths out there that could be harmful. And I share these myths that could be harmful because we have to make sure that not only in our state are we addressing it, but across the country and across the world. One of those myths says that to be good enough is to be good enough, or to be average is okay. The reality in our society is that many times it's not that we aim too high and that we miss. Many times it's that we aim too low and we hit. And we stop growing, stop challenging ourselves, stop pursuing the things that can make us great. And I think in the state of New Mexico, even though we've done some wonderful things in this last legislative session, and years before that we've seen some movement taking place, we can still do more. And I believe that we can do more and get to be great by ensuring that we have the support for all of our computer science educators across the state of New Mexico, that we can offer stipends, that we can offer training that's so necessary to bring that expertise and to build on the expertise that we already have. One of those other myths out there that could be harmful is when we hear the myth that we have to focus on reading and math, because reading and math is what is measured. Reading and math is going to be on those standardized tests. Well, I have to believe that not only does computer science need to be part of our daily schedules and our curriculum, we have to recognize that it is a component, an added component that is going to be instrumental in expanding our learning opportunities and capabilities. You see, for too long in our country, We've been chasing the elusive student achievement scores, when in reality, we should all along be chasing student engagement. Computer science gives us that opportunity to have student engagement on areas of interest right there that'll increase the opportunities to continue to grow and to learn. You see, when I question as a high school student, why do we have to take algebra? Why do we have to take chemistry? Why do we have to take these subjects? I'm never going to use them. And it was explained to me the reasoning behind that. Because the development of the brain, the critical thinking, those aspects that continue to be developed are the same exact ways that we see the improvements and the connectivity and the critical thinking and the exploration pieces of our brain that comes with computer science. And the last myth that I want to share with you that probably is the greatest myth of all, yet gives us the most power. And when I share that with you, I think it's important and critical. Because the myth that says to be loving or kind or compassionate in our society is to be weak. You can't be kind, you can't be loved, especially in the business setting, for sure in the political setting, because you're just going to get run over. And the reason and the truth behind that is that's a myth. Because to show love, kindness, and compassion is the most powerful thing that we can ever demonstrate in the society that we live in. And how does this tie in with the potential that we have? Just this last weekend, we had an opportunity, and it was so inspiring. In Las Lunas High School, we hosted the first ever Governor's STEM Challenge, where many students came with their ideas of how they can make New Mexico healthier and safer. And it was great to see the talent that we have all across the state of New Mexico. And it was inspiring to see all that took place. By giving you the opportunity and sharing with educators the resources and the support, what we want to make sure that we do is to provide the curriculum opportunities to assist every single one of you students to explore, to imagine, to create, to utilize your computer science research, to utilize your computer science opportunities into making this world a more kind, compassionate, and loving environment. That is the goal of each one of us and the responsibility that we all have. And what a wonderful way and a wonderful opportunity to join in together on this possibility with each one of you. Thank you so much for joining us here in New Mexico. We welcome you all and wish you the best of luck.
Thank you so much. Thank you. One more round of applause for our Lieutenant Governor of Mexico. Thank you. All right. To close us out today, I'd like to welcome back to the stage Principal Rosetta and SFIS Senior Vernon Tenorio. Vernon will be giving us our benediction today, so please come on to the stage.
Thank you, audience. Thank you, panel and awardees. And at this time, I'd like to welcome Vernon Tenorio from Santo Domingo Pueblo. Please stand and remove your hats for our benediction.
Meko hayat irikuni nia naps nia matakushkocha mahkochoma meko hayat irikuni tiete tishkshokimite hayat irikuni nayekashko meko hayat irikayo kaichana sochana osha shoda seoshkocha sumana kaicha teya skaya naps sto hoyam mai ni teya tepona el ieni kishka how ieni isho strocha saiwikim gorawa site skiltrocha.
And at this time, I ask everybody to remain seated.